We all, of course, know where the shrine is, but those of us joining us this project new may not. I think it's important to realize that it is located really at the heart of where all the Spanish missions were, Florida, and on a wonderful site located just outside of town. And also the sort of the telling the story of these martyrs that will be expressed through the way we experience the site, through the sort of hierarchy of the paths, through the way we walk through it, the way we experience the symbolism. What is the meaning of this? Why are we here? How is this landscape giving glory to God? How is it telling the story? Essentially, you would have representative statues. It could be in the form of reliefs or freestanding statues of the different groupings of martyrs. Though before we get to the martyrs, we have it's predominantly trees, and it's not wilderness, but it's certainly much more natural at this point. This represents, in a sense, the early days of the before the missionaries came, also the early days of the mission. We have here this small, not small, actually, it's quite large, but a lawn here, which is the end of this avenue, which is also pedestrian, and it'd be grass, you could easily spread blankets out, but it's lined with statues of the seven archangels. And in the early days of Spanish evangelization in South America, because there were no local saints, they often turned to the angels as particular inspiring saints and figures for the neophytes, the new faithful. Then you would have the Avenue of the Martyrs. This is essentially a kind of mystical or salvation history axis in a sense. The other axis is sort of secular history. The witness, the historical witness of the martyrs is represented by the pilgrim path, which goes through the visitors center, the pilgrim visitor center, which would have a lot of historical information. And they meet in the middle of the main square, which becomes essentially the nexus point between these two. The New Jerusalem, and then the church as the land itself within the New Jerusalem. I think this gives a sense of the sweep of this whole site. This is a section cut from all the way here where you're driving past, looking all the way through the Avenue of the Martyrs down to the church. It is gradual, but it is definitely a slope. And this is really, I think, a good example of the progression that you would get. You have your, and then the place which is paved, where people can come out of their cars, which would be back behind the trees, and move into this avenue space, and the various monuments to the martyrs along here, interspersed with trees, with topiary hedges, very much in the Baroque and Renaissance garden, and then into the church itself. It is a journey of ascent, shall we say. Moving from the Avenue of the Martyrs, we find ways to especially commemorate and mark within history, within the sort of the sequence of the different martyrs. You start with, on this side, the arch dedicated to the proto-martyrs, Father Cancer, Father Vitalosa, Brother Fuentes. Each side of the cloister has a particular set of mysteries associated with it. Within the arcade and the pavement, we would have the different rosary mysteries marked. And so we'd have the sorrowful mysteries on the arch of the proto-martyrs, very appropriate. The other side is the gate of the Passion. This side, the joyous mysteries, the gate of joy. The luminous mysteries on this side, leading down into the area where I think it's given the feeding of the 5,000. I think it's more, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. It's certainly the Last Supper is certainly a fitting place to have your area where the food is. And then the glorious mysteries on this side, obviously the most important, most significant, leading to the church. These are our arches in the pilgrim center. You can see the doors beyond. This portal here, the pilgrim's portal, there'd be a number of different symbolic notes we would describe in this. I think we would have references, of course, to Santiago, a very important saint to the Spanish, also a great pilgrim saint with the shells that bring the cross of Santiago. But we'd also have references to Antonio, because of course, and he's our lead martyr, and of course, as someone who came to the faith, baptized, I presume, as an adult, or at the very least, in a community that was a missionary community, he was a pilgrim, like I suppose all of us are. If we are going into the church, either we are coming across the main square or we are accessing it from the pilgrim center. The narthex is quite generous. The nave would seat, in terms of fixed seats, is 240. The sanctuary is quite generous. Transepts on either side with confessional, and then on either side we have the St. Joseph statue within a niche, trying to set the story of the martyrs within the larger story of salvation history. Now I'm going to close with some screenshots of that path down to the way across. And you can see how this works with the curving stair, with the fountains, with the tents, the restrooms over here. And it also fits very naturally into the landscape. And all these different additions do not take away from the beauty of the church, and in fact build towards it. It really is kind of like a little city on a hill, which is moving towards the crescendo